Jeff, it happened again.
Oh, shit.
Mar-a-Lago 2.0.
God damn it.
Oh, wait, no, it was Biden.
Oh, fuck.
Welcome to Law-ish. This is, I don't know which episode it's going to be when we upload it, but it doesn't matter because we're not saying episodes anymore.
Yeah.
So,
The bigliest, though.
the bigliest episode, probably, so far. This is the bigliest episode of the week.
It is. Definitely that.
It happened again. The thing that we didn't think was going to happen, happened. The thing that the Democrats were blasting Trump and the Republicans for happened also in the Democrats' house.
Yeah.
And what is this? Everybody already knows this. Biden's version of Mar-a-Lago. So he saw Trump's Mar-a-Lago and he was like, no.
That's right.
I'm not one to be left behind.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So we thought, well, what a great way to start a Law-ish episode.
Yeah.
And by just talking about Biden's version of Mar-a-Lago. The great value of Mar-a-Lagos.
You know what's even crazier to think about? Like, he had these documents way longer than Trump did, right?
He did.
From when Obama was in office.
It was when he was vice president.
Yeah.
And this was like before 2000, when Obama was like 2000.
Like Trump only had him like a little bit.
Yeah.
This motherfucker had the shit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So there's obviously, if you don't know, this is just the Reader's Digest version. Recently, we'll give you a timeline of what happened. But recently, the media publicized that there were some classified documents found first at I think it's I have here the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement, and that is just an institute within the Penn University.
Yeah, so it's like his office, basically.
Right, exactly. Anyway, so they found some classified documents there. And we'll talk about the actual timeline in a minute. But they found that document, and they said to the archives, National Archives, "Hey, sorry, we had this." Oh, okay. And then, again, the news reported that later on they found more documents at his house.
4 separate occasions.
Yeah. In 4 separate occasions, they found more documents at his house. In a couple of his houses. One was at the Wilmington house. Mm-hmm. Although I think that's the one. That's the one in Delaware. And at the garage. And then there was like one in a room adjacent to the garage. There was like, but 4 different times.
The garage was in his Corvette. Like, there was documents in his Corvette.
I didn't know.
So, yeah, because there's no press thing. He was like, I mean, just so you know, my Corvette was locked. It's like, okay. And you drove this to Kroger. You drove this to the gas station. Who knows where the hell he drove it, right?
Yeah.
Was it always locked? Even if it was, like, you got like top secret stuff chilling in your car.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just weird. But anyway, so that happened, and that is really what we're talking about today. It's just the media brought it up for good reason, because it should be discussed, right?
And of note, I thought was interesting. Everybody was reporting on this. So for like all the people on the right were like, "Oh, the mainstream media is not talking." No, they did.
Yeah,
they were actually the ones who broke the news initially.
Exactly.
So this isn't some partisan thing.
And even because there's obviously discussions that the White House went to the National Archives and said, "Hey, they turned over the documents and whatnot." Yeah, but why did you not disclose it? Yeah. And that is really because if you're trying to get on this moral high horse, right, when you're looking at Trump and the dumb shit that he does, well, if it happens, if the exact same thing happens on your end of the field, fair is fair.
And what blows my mind is I don't know because I didn't check. But they first found, November 2nd was when they first found the documents, right? Or the first...
Yeah, it was early November of last year.
Yeah, so obviously before the midterms, which was a concern, again, because maybe that was the reason they disclosed, right? But I think, and I don't know, but I want to think based on just like kind of, this is just from memory. It seems like when Joe Biden was on TV saying about how irresponsible it was that Trump had these documents, that it was after the 2nd of November. Which makes it even more ridiculous and hypocritical.
Yeah,
right?
That is a good point.
I could be wrong, but I'm just trying to think back. It seemed more recent than November 2nd that he said that.
Well, you would think that they do because we can then move on to the actual timeline. So in early November of 2022, that's when they find these documents at the Penn Biden Center. Yeah. And they were locked. They were in a locked closet.
And that's another thing. It kind of just weirded me out. Why are these lawyers just randomly going through shit? Like, are they doing his taxes?
Well, I think there's got to be some sort of like reconciliation of your documents. Okay. Like we're just gonna and if you think about in those levels, there's got to be some sort of like periodic review, because I read an interview with John Cohen, I think is his name. He's a former acting Undersecretary for Intelligence and Analysis, and this is at the Department of Homeland Security. And he was saying, you know, there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who have security clearance. And so depending on your level, you know, to a different extent, you have access to a bunch of confidential information and or classified documents. And he's saying violations of, the security restrictions are pretty common.
Yeah, sure.
But then what makes it really like the more noteworthy or newsworthy is, well, the extent to which the documents were important, the extent to the conduct of the person that violated it, like was it intentional, was it inadvertent, right? Now, Biden is fucking
everything else
exactly.
also.
And the thing is, this guy was saying, John Cohen was saying, the crux here is there's a couple of things we don't know. One, we don't know what the actual documents were, so we don't know if they're just confidential or they're secret and top secret. If they're confidential, it really doesn't matter as much as people think. If they're secret or top secret, that's a problem.
There was an interview on CNN, and it was somebody who was somehow related to the Biden campaign. She said that, and somebody pressed her, one of the reporters on CNN, and again, I don't know specifics, but anyway, the gist of it was that some of these documents were the highest level security, whatever, TSI or whatever the hell it is, the highest level of security,
top secret,
top secret status of the documents. And so I don't know. I only saw it once in that interview, but it was on CNN. They were kind of pressing her on it. She was like, oh, yeah, but we don't know what it is. I'm like, and again, at the end of the day, if it's truly accidental, well, really, that shouldn't matter as much. It's still a concern.
Yeah.
But like if somebody was really packing your stuff and just took it,
and
you weren't aware of it, at the end of the day,
and that's what Cohen was saying. He was saying, if it's just confidential, it's not that much of an issue. He said, but the second thing we don't know too is if what were the classifications of the documents as shown on the markers of the document, because documents are stamped.
Yeah.
They in the case of Trump, he was saying, we know that there were folders, and within the folders, there were like colored papers that are meant to be, call your attention, that said top secret or confidential, that give you the actual classification. And we don't know yet what happened on this one. So again, that might be one hint of what you were talking about in that interview. But the guy was saying, we don't know what the documents were, and we don't know what the branding on the documents was, like whether they were expressly deemed classified by virtue of having some sort of cover letter or some sort of stamp on the document. So that we don't know. But then the biggest thing I think is there's a difference between what happened here. Because to your point, to your earlier point, Biden had these documents for forever.
Yeah.
Like a long ass time.
So that's a difference that does not go in his favor.
Exactly. But at the same time, Trump had like boxes and boxes, right? And then if Mr. Cohen is to be believed, he also had boxes and boxes of shit he already knew that was confidential or top secret or whatever.
He didn't want to turn over.
Whereas Biden is fucking senile. Yeah. So it is very within the realm of possibility that, one, he wasn't the one that took the documents. It was some sort of aide. Oh, yeah. Right? But even if he did, he didn't fucking know.
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't excuse it.
Exactly.
It doesn't excuse it at all. You're not supposed to do it. You're not supposed to do it. You have people that work for you that should be on top of this shit. But I just thought, I was like, all right, come on. Let's stop with the whole calling the kettle black. Oh, yeah. If the Republicans were like, oh, my God, there's so much hypocrisy. Oh, why would he treat Trump like that and then do... Like, well, bitch... Talk about you being hypocrites, Well,
it goes
both ways.
There was a guy on CNN. It was like the current leader of the House. That's like, I don't know, basically like whatever. I can't remember his exact position, but he's Republican, obviously, and he has to do with the National Archives. That's his job, right? And he's on there talking about how concerned he is about this and national security. And so then he plays an interview of him when this happened to Trump. I'm like, are you at all concerned? Are you going to investigate? No. So then he's like, so are you only concerned when it's a Democrat?
Exactly. Yeah. And that really is what's bothering me, because it's like, I'm not saying what he did is right, what Biden did is right. It's not.
No.
And you and I have talked about this in the podcast, is if you violate the law and there's evidence for it, bring it. Oh, yeah. And you're going to have to, live with the consequences of your actions or your proxy's actions.
Yeah. I think,
but when it comes to like pointing that, like sitting on that high horse and pointing the finger, it's like, bitch, the cool thing is they have those recordings, right? Because obviously when this happened, there were interviews all over the
Oh,
place,
yeah.
over the mainstream media. So there's definitely a lot of evidence to just have you eat your words.
Pretty much, And the reality, though, is my biggest concern with this is, and from Biden, like, I guess the wrongdoing, in my opinion, we don't know. We don't know how many documents. They said around 20. We don't know the classification of them yet. We don't really know if it was obviously intentional or if the aides packed them up. 20 documents, sure. Very likely aides could have just packed those up. Again, you're the president. You're not doing a lot of this work yourself. But they knew on the second that they had these.
Yeah.
And it didn't get disclosed until some other media outlet found out about it.
Right.
So what did it ever got disclosed? I mean, it got turned over to the National Archives.
Yeah.
So legally, yeah, that's important.
And the DOJ was notified because that was the thing that I wanted to do with the timeline. So early November, like you said, they find the documents at the Penn Biden Center. November 4th, so if it was November 2nd, which I think that's right, then the DOJ is notified and they're told, hey, this happened. And in mid-November, in all fairness, the DOJ knew before the election as well, right? They weren't keeping it until after the election to at least tell the DOJ. In mid-November, the DOJ, or actually Garland, appointed a U.S. attorney in Chicago. In December 20th, Biden's personal attorney informed the guy that had been appointed, which was a Trump appointee.
Yeah.
He informed them, hey, there's more documents found in the garage now.
Yeah.
So fast forward to 2023, January 9th, the White House counsel admits publicly for the first time, this is over 2 months from when they found the documents.
Yeah.
They admit publicly, there were some documents found at the Penn Biden Center. The ones that were found on the 2nd, back in the day. Yeah. And then on the 11th, they found another document at the Wilmington house. On the 12th, they confirmed, we found one document, and then when we went there to try and retrieve it and give it to the DOJ, we found another 5.
Yes, exactly.
So, but they said, but that's it, we're done. The search is complete. And then 2 days after, never mind, found another 5.
Exactly. And so Garland originally was thinking about involving the Department of Justice in the search, but then he's like, no, we don't need to because they're cooperating, right?
Yeah.
But now it makes you wonder, they keep finding more stuff. And they are cooperating because they are saying, hey, we found more.
Yeah.
And that was a big...
So I think the concern is more incompetence than trying to hide
Exactly. Because clearly these attorneys aren't hiding anything. And that's a big difference from Trump, right? A huge difference. And so legally, did Biden do what he was supposed to do? Or did his attorneys do what he was supposed to do? Yes. They turned it over to the National Archives. They notified the Department of Justice. But as far as Biden, going on and saying transparency, how important it is, and trust in the public, and this, that, or whatever, well, you withheld this not only past the midterms, but you only disclosed this once you had no other choice because the media outlets found out about it and they're reporting on it. So it doesn't say a whole lot about transparency and trust, and especially if he was going on the record talking about how irresponsible it was of Trump and all this other stuff while he's doing the same thing, or knowing at that point, if that is the case, again, I don't know, I have to check the timeline, but knowing at that point that he in fact had documents himself at his house, And
it could be one of those where maybe he didn't know.
Yeah.
Again, not excusing him, but just based on the timeline, it's like, oh, you know what? This happened. So the attorneys discover it. And it's just like, oh shit, we need to get ahead of this. So they go and do what they need to do, which is report it to the DOJ and all that. And then we'll brief Biden and say, hey, we found this or whatever. But regardless, that still doesn't excuse it. So if that was the case and you didn't know when you were saying all this stuff, talk about, spitting up, right? But if you did know, then it's even worse. So it's like either way, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because if he didn't know, it's incompetence.
Yes.
And if he did know, that's hypocrisy.
And I don't believe that his attorneys wouldn't notify him, even if they were like, "Hey, we have to tell the Department of Justice, we have to tell the National Archives."
It would be like
that's your client.
Yeah,
if it is in fact your attorney,
especially because these were the personal attorneys.
Yes,
not the White House counsel.
Just so you know, we're by duty, we're honor bound. We got to do this or whatever legally, but also heads up. So I feel, but it's Biden, so he might have forgot.
It's fair. That's very true.
He might have very likely forgot 10 minutes later. So I don't know where that leaves it, but no, it's crazy. And there's definitely differences. Some that are in Biden's favor, a lot which are in Biden's favor, and some that aren't. Yeah. Again, having these for since 2016 or before Trump even ran. Yeah. 2016, right? Around that time, the documents have been in these locations for that long, and he hasn't found out about them. He hasn't noticed. And it's possible, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's how many of us have a bunch of stuff in storage in boxes, and we forget what is in there. What the criticism would be is, Well, just taking them in the first place is what you're not supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you have it in your garage or in some basement,
You know what? What concerns me the most are the ones in his Corvette.
right?
I don't believe people
Because you drive a Corvette and you don't like the.
Yeah, and your aides aren't going to shove classified documents in your Corvette.
I mean, if they.
Well, maybe if they're dumb, but also like, where are they in the glove box? How do you not see those? Like, what are they in the passenger seat?
Yeah.
Do you not clean your car? Like, I mean, I don't know. Those were weird to me. And again, from the same source that was interviewed, it sounded like some of these documents. And again, this is who knows? I don't know. This is just from this like interview that I was watching. That some of the documents that were found that were of concern were essentially like I don't even know the exact wording of it, but it was essentially like a briefing on other foreign countries, which would obviously have value, similar to what Trump had, you know, as far as like not defense capabilities necessarily, but was information that would certainly be helpful to certain countries that were maybe adversarial to these countries. So it's like, why would you take this home? And again, who knows? Who knows? Could have been accidental.
Yeah.
Could have not. We don't
And obviously, we're going to find out more because then the follow up to all this is the DOJ, Garland specifically, appointed Robert Hur. That's a guy who's a former prosecutor with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Maryland.
Yeah.
And he was also a Trump appointee. So I think that signals, and there's something that Garland obviously said himself, some willingness to be like, hey, fair is fair. We're going to treat everybody the same way. And if you fucked up, we're going to find out. And if you fucked up and we find out, then
for sure,
consequences are going to follow.
Yeah.
And then that obviously contrasts with the new Speaker of the House, McCarthy, and he's like, oh, it just shows how the administration is, there's so much hypocrisy because they're treating Trump differently and different law. Well, yeah, bitch, but it's the DOJ that's persecuting this stuff, not the White House.
Yeah.
The White House, of course, they're going to, like the same way the White House did with Trump, they're trying to protect them and justify everything. They're doing the same thing with Biden. Because they're trying to justify it.
Yes.
But the DOJ, as opposed to in Trump's time, when this guy, what's his name, Barr, was Trump's puppet, at least here, Garland is showing sort of like balls and being like, hey, I don't care who hired me. You hired me for a job. This is my job.
And he even said, he's like, look, I think the Department of Justice could handle this completely fairly and everything else, impartial. He's like, but at the same time, I know what opposites, what it looks like. And he's like, and for that reason, I'm going to appoint a special counsel. And it's like, so... It makes total sense. I also think, the big difference in this, and they're trying to look, oh, Trump was treated differently. Yeah, because the National Archives found out the documents were missing.
That's right.
It wasn't.
They said,
Trump's
hey, we found out, give us the stuff.
Yes, and he refused. There's like a huge difference. The attorneys for Biden came to the National Archives and said, hey, we have these documents. We found these. That's 100% different situation.
I mean, not according to Trump, though, because Trump is like, I was subject to the more lenient and better.
The illegal raid. It's like... What? Unjustified raid.
I mean, Garland himself said, and this is one thing that I wrote down because I thought it was interesting. He said, this appointment of this guy, not because he was a Trump appointee, but because it's a special counsel by himself doing his thing, should evidence the commitment that the DOJ has for accountability and independence. And then those two things. You want to be transparent, and you want to be independent and not have even that appearance of impropriety.
And the sad thing is, assuming, let's just, hypothetical, he does his investigation. He finds there was no wrongdoing. There are people like, oh, he's a rhino. He's not a real Republican. He hates Trump. It's like, did you appointed this guy? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But that's just where we are in today's society.
That's exactly it. And then, so obviously that was on the one hand side. The DOJ has appointed a special prosecutor for that, or I guess a special counsel for that. And then the House, which is now under the control of the Republicans, has also put together all these committees. I mean, the committees are already there, but now the people heading the committees are Republicans, and they're ready to start investigating. They started by asking the White House for the visitor logs for Biden's house, and they're like, no, there's none.
And they're like, why isn't there visitor logs?
Because
he destroyed them. It's like, dude, it's his house.
That is hilarious. Yeah.
Who the hell?
And the thing is, like, they're like,
logs?
well, that's literally protocol for every single president.
Yeah.
We don't have visitor logs for their personal residence.
Yes.
So that's why there's none.
Exactly. Why would there be?
What are they hiding?
The dumbest thing. It's like, who came into your garage? Why don't you have a visitor log? And I told you Fox News when they were like, it was a breaking news article like, Hunter Biden had access to the garage. It's his fucking dad's house. What are you talking about? Like, what? But they got to tie it to this QAnon crazy ass conspiracy shit.
Oh, of course.
Their viewers eat it up, you know. But yeah, I thought that was funny.
It was funny. And the whole thing is just, there's one document there. There's 5 there. Oh, it's another one. Oh, there were another 5. It's like you have like cumulatively, you have papers that wouldn't even like make a folder look fake.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But
either way, if they're classifying one page of super top secret could be really dangerous for the country. But it's like, bro, it's not the same. No. Like, come on.
But it made it look much worse. The fact that they were like, oh, we found more. Oh, we found more. Oh,
That's it.
You know,
like,
they found all 20 at the same time.
Then let's get all of them. Like, all right, we found all of them. That's it. We did a thorough, search, and here's 20 documents that we found. Ah, well, shucks. It still sucks, and it's still bad. But it's like, oh, we found more.
Yeah.
Because then it makes you think, well, how many other ones have you not found?
Exactly.
In all the other houses.
And that's what they're going to play, yeah. And the others, politics or whatever the right's going to play into. But, and to be fair, I think them doing it the way they did it was the right thing to do. You didn't wait. You were like, hey, we found these documents. We're going to let you know right away. Oh, we found more here. Oh, shit. But, yeah, like, it doesn't look good when it's like, oh, wait, there's more. It's like, but wait, there's more.
There's more. So, I mean, we'll find out, obviously. This is obviously developing as we're speaking. And Mr. Hur is, doing his investigation. Again, according to Jason Cohen, these security violations are not uncommon. Mm-hmm. The security investigation itself that follows them are just protocols that are in place, that have been in place for years, to determine, how sensitive the documents were they clearly marked.
Yeah.
When you took them, did you take them inadvertently? Did you take them by accident? Did you take them because you wanted to? And then he says in the article, I thought it was interesting. He says, there's obviously degrees of discretion that you have as an investigator, but also degrees of how good or how bad the intentions were. Right? There's people that take documents because they want to write a book.
Yeah.
And there's people that take documents because they want to
sell them to a foreign country.
And those two are two different motives. Yeah. So obviously we will find out what Ben-Hur finds out.
Yeah. One's a violation, the other one's treason. Yeah. So,
Exactly.
One, you violated the act. The other one, not only did you violate the act, you also committed treason. Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll find out more, but I just thought this was a hilarious thing.
Yeah.
It's like looking at, like, there's this huge hurricane and you're throwing like stones at people and they just like turn around and hit you because you're being like, you're seeing the hurricane and you're not fucking fully aware of what you're doing.
Well, and he was riding this high. Biden was like, everything was going, his approval ratings were going up like significantly. The midterms were a great success.
Yeah, some legislation was actually like
gas prices were going
passed.
down. Everything seemed like they were going pretty good. And then it was like a surprise.
Threw the stone and the wind just. Bloop.
The issue is it was like a time bomb that he'd known about for a while that just blew up down the road.
Yeah. In the most ironic way possible.
Yeah. And here's the thing that really gets me is this may be way more common than anybody knows about, because had Biden not become president, nobody would have found out about this.
Yeah, it's possible, yeah.
Like, I mean, his attorneys probably wouldn't be doing reviews of his article. He'd be at his house. I doubt any of this really probably would have been happening.
Chilling in his Corvette with some documents.
But then you wonder if other presidents had this, right? I doubt it's just Trump and Biden.
Yeah, John Cohen was saying, you got to think there's a bunch of like former presidents or former like officials who were like searching the garages right now to see if they have
exactly. Yeah, and had Trump not taken like hundreds or whatever he took of documents, the National Archives probably wouldn't have noticed.
Right.
But when you like go to a bookstore and you take all the books, somebody's going to know something's wrong, right? And so it's like for him, it was like, what the hell's like, we're missing a bunch of stuff. Whereas Biden, it was like, you got 20 documents. I don't think anyone would have ever noticed.
Honestly, yeah, if they hadn't come forward, it is very possible the National Archives wouldn't have noticed.
For sure. Attorneys could have known.
Depending on what the documents were, obviously.
Exactly.
Because, again, we don't know that, but that's a really good point.
So it's just, yeah. But, yeah, they're not the same. When the National Archives, we're missing all this stuff. Hey, we're missing all this stuff. Oh, we don't have anything. Clearly they did. Oh, okay, yeah, we found some. Here you go. Oh, we're still missing more stuff. Oh, that was it. That's everything. Like there's a huge difference between that and, oh, crap, we found these. And nobody even reached out to us. But, oh, no, like these should have been, should have stayed.
And there's also that other thing, too. Had this whole thing not blown up the way it did with Trump.
Yes.
Would Biden's attorneys would have been as compelled to do it right away the way they did. It's like, so let's make it different. Let's try and make it distinguishable.
Yeah.
It makes you think. It definitely, the fact that it blew up in Trump's face so recently and in a way that was like very, very widely publicized.
Yeah.
It just makes you believe, well, these guys were like, how do we play this in a way that makes us look better
for
than
sure.
this other guy?
Well, because they don't want to get in trouble either, right?
Yeah.
I'm not falling for this guy. I want my business attorney, but I'm not going down.
Exactly.
And, long story short, Biden, if you're listening tomorrow, just wake up and be like, I declassified everything.
Yeah.
You know, before you left
If
office.
we learn anything from the last guy is you gotta do this thing. Think it though.
It was all declassified.
And when you wish it really hard, it happens.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's where we're at. We don't know. We'll get more updates soon, and who knows, man? I don't know. You know, again with Trump, it was kind of, you know, some things you can't prove, right? Like clearly he was fighting keeping the documents. He wanted to keep the documents. He was resisting. That's pretty obvious. If you took him intentionally, of course, yes, you can make logical conclusions based on how things played out that he did. But you're never really going to know unless he confesses to it.
Yeah.
With the Biden situation, it's going to be a lot harder because it is 20 documents, at least that we know of now. We don't know what they are. We don't know the security clearance. We don't know the depth of that. But I think it's going to be a lot harder, and this is the issue we're going to run into. So if they come to a conclusion based on Trump, which obviously seems like it was more nefarious in nature, and they don't have that same evidence to come to the same conclusion with Biden, they're going to be like, oh, they're treating him different. He's like, well, the facts are different.
Yeah.
One's a lot more obvious that this was probably intentional, and, well, it seems like it certainly was intentional. The other one, we don't really know.
Yeah.
So barring him admitting to it or, you know, them finding some other documents that say, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to sell this to Saudi Arabia or whatever the case may be, like.
Yeah, it is different.
You know.
And not the best analogy, but it's the difference between going into a gas station and shoplifting a candy bar.
Yeah.
And then going and getting that same candy bar at gunpoint, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like there's a big difference in those two things, even though the shop is only out a candy bar.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and it's not going to match the public. It's a problem, right? It's like
It
they were
won't.
treated different. Well, the sides are going to dig into the corners. And
well, yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Then the only thing that's going to be is that they're going to use the arguments in each other's favor to say why the other side is wrong.
Yeah.
Because again, the country's divided and there's just like no coherence anymore with our own beliefs.
I will say something that was surprising to me was I put a show on TikTok, and a lot of comments were like, "We'll throw them both in jail." I was like, "Oh, well, that's a nice change." You know?
Yeah.
Like if they broke the law, throw them both in jail. I was like,
Because that is really the point.
Can we
It's
be like that more?
Are we all gonna be on on the side of like law and order,
Yeah.
or we're just gonna pick and choose whatever works for us? There was someone who made a comment in one of our last videos, and they said, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, you know, your commitment to freedom of speech and you know law and order is evidenced best when it's happening to someone who you don't like.
Exactly.
Right. So when that's the case, you're like, oh yeah, throw him in jail. Whatever.
Yes.
When it's someone you like, it's like, oh, we should be
Yes.
you know more lenient.
We
and
gotta
whatnot.
wait and see how it plays out.
Exactly,
You know,
and
it's like-
that shouldn't be it. Like
Yeah.
if you're committed to in that case was the Andrew Tate video.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you're committed to freedom of speech, you're committed to freedom of speech. If you're committed to law and order, it should be law and order.
Yeah.
Like it should be blind justice.
Yeah, it shouldn't be freedom of speech as long as it's like you know it fits your viewpoint
Yeah,
on the world.
as long as I like
right? It's
what
something you
they're
agree
saying.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyways,
So,
well, any parting words, Jeff?
yeah, like I said, just declassify, Biden. Declassify.
When in doubt,
That is it.
declassify.
Magic wand.
Just go.
Everything is
And
declassified.
there's declassify forever.
By the way, if I have any top secret documents in my house, I don't. But if I do, declassified.
let this record
Yes,
show
on record right
that
now.
you declassify.
As a
them.
private citizen, I declassify all the top secret stuff.
Excellent.
Please don't search my house.
Follow us for more legal advice.
Yes, yeah, very good.
Also, this is not legal advice.
It's not. It's not. Educational purposes only.
Exactly.
Or entertainment purposes only.
Exactly. All right. Well, then we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us. Follow us on TikTok if you don't already. We'll leave the TikTok handle on the screen now. And this was Losh.
Yeah. And Kamala Harris might be president next time we're doing this. You know?